Guys, welcome. I'm super pumped for today's webinar. I do love this stuff and I can't wait to share it with you. We got some really rad people online. Andrew, Benny, Christine, Jill, Karen, Shatara, Zenik. Welcome. It'd be great to make this as interactive as we can, as possible. So please feel free to post in the chat. I'll keep an eye on it. Ask questions as we go. This is a webinar style format, so you won't be able to see anybody else, but please do use the chat. There's a little, next to the to button, there's a little drop down. You can change it to all panelists and attendees. If you can change it to that way everybody will be able to see. Unless you want to send something to me discreetly, by all means, just then choose, I think that one's all panelists, or we can send it to me directly. But so if you change it to all panelists and attendees, that way we can make this more of a collective event as opposed to me just blabbing on. So please do ask questions as we go. Like, I really do love this stuff and I'm really excited to share it with you. It really is about building this community around transformative technologies. So this, just going to make it a chat. No, so panelists. There we go. So that's how it'll show up. Awesome, Andrew, Benny, Christine, David, welcome, Jill. I'll give it one more minute. We had like a really good amount of people register. Hey, Andrew. So we'll give it another minute and then we'll get started. Hey, Tron, welcome. I am recording this. There's a whole bunch of people that have requested that. So I'll send through a recording. There's going to be heaps of links and other resources that I want to share off the back of this as well. So we'll get that as a part of a follow-up email. A quick shout out to the people that have been sponsoring or make this possible, like the federal government through their entrepreneurs program. I just want to acknowledge them. Advanced Queensland through their innovation program, their regional funding hubs program. TAFE, where we have our physical incubator based in Cairns, and McDonald's Law have been a tremendous supporter since the beginning. And I'll acknowledge a whole bunch of other people as we go through this presentation, but I just wanted to start by acknowledging those. All right, so what are we on? 12:03, let's get started. So really I want to leave you with 4 things at the end of this webinar today. And like I said, like, I'm really pumped for this. I'm really excited. So please do, I want this to be interactive. So if you've got any questions along the way or any comments, pop them into the chat so that we can all benefit from it. But the 4 things that I want to cover off are transformative technologies. What are they? What is it? The part that we're playing, and by we're, I'll explain who that is. Like, there's a whole bunch of people that are really supporting the development of the transformative technologies within Australia and globally. And so I'll explain what that is and the part that we're playing and how you can be involved as well. And there's a number of different ways you can be involved depending on whether you're an entrepreneur. And I'll explain the different stakeholders as we go through. How we're applying these technologies, and then how you might want to get started with this and why you'd want to. So I'll run through some like basic ways that we're using these technologies to level up essentially. And then I'll talk about a 4th thing, which I'm really excited about, but I'm going to leave that to the end as a bit of a surprise, the 4th thing. How's that sound? Does that all sound good? Give me some love in the chat. Thumbs up. Love it. Good. You guys are awesome. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Jill. Thanks, Zenik. So the first thing, just a bit of background. So thanks, Shatar. So I was in Cairns for 20 years, and as part of being in Cairns, I started an incubator with some Damien Zemmer was one of the other key drivers, and there's a whole collective of us. Essentially, we identified early back in 2012 that to really effectively turn ideas into reality, you needed to build a community. And essentially it takes a village to raise a startup. And we were looking at other places that were doing startup really well, like Silicon Valley. And we looked at what was it there that really enabled them to, effectively turn ideas into reality. And so we set about actually building out an ecosystem to support our ideas, not only just our ideas, but the community's ideas. And that's how the space was born. So this is relevant, and I'll explain why moving forward, but essentially we were key drivers, like as part of the space in building out the startup and entrepreneurship or innovation ecosystem throughout far north Queensland, and also mentoring other regions around the country. And then we grew from essentially like working out of a surface office with some Bunnings desks into what it became really a thriving ecosystem. And here you can see the former Prime Minister, Malcolm Turnbull, coming in, making an announcement and pledging $10 million to our region, to the JCU Innovation Centre. And so that was fun, and we did that for a number of years. There's a whole bunch of different programs that we run. I'm not going to go into these in detail, but it's fundamentally supporting entrepreneurship in general. And then in 2018, for family reasons, I moved to the Gold Coast, which has been absolutely amazing. I love the Gold Coast. So I now move between the Gold Coast and Cairns, still having the space in Cairns, and a whole bunch of you are at the space. So shout out to you guys. And but then also, like, being on the Gold Coast has allowed me to really connect into the Gold Coast ecosystem and the Brisbane-based ecosystem, and then even Sydney and Melbourne and so forth. And back in 2018, I was introduced to Transformative Technologies, and I'm going to explain what that is in a minute. But this enabled me through a federal government grant to spend 4 weeks in an immersion at the Transformative Technologies lab, which is pretty amazing. It was in this big mansion, as you can see here, 9-bedroom mansion down in Redwood City, which is just down near Palo Alto, down from San Francisco. So I spent close to a month here. That's Nicole Bradford. She's one of the founders of Transformative Technologies on the right. Sanjay Manatunga, who is, he's like one of the chief research scientists within the lab. And he works with Jeffrey Martin, who is one of the founders of Transformative Technology, also on a whole range of different research projects relevant to higher states of consciousness, transformative technologies, and this will make more sense as we get into it. So this is the house or mansion that I got to stay at, which was pretty rad. That's Eve. She was awesome. She was one of the tenants or one of the residents in the house. And this is sort of some of the tech that we got to play with. Here's a 64-bit or 64-channel EEG device, and a whole range of other different tech that this gentleman's hooked up to. And this is me with a V-Light stimulation. The V-Light, it's like stimulating gamma waves into my brain. And this here is measuring, it's infrared being put up to my nose as well. And I was like, I actually seen the guys from Transformative Technologies on stage at their conference in 2017. And sorry, 2018, and they were demonstrating this. And then fast forward, I actually got to go and experience it, stimulating gamma brain waves into the brain. And why would you want to do that? Like, essentially, gamma is linked to higher states of consciousness. You activate more parts of the brain. It brings like the different lobes together and demonstrates higher levels of functionality between the different parts of the brain. And this here is us playing with transcranial brain stimulation. We're using something like this to essentially elicit high states of consciousness. It's basically that remuneration part of our brain, the default network. By stimulating that with an ultrasound, a certain frequency, a certain part of the brain, it can dull that remuneration in the brain. This is pretty high tech, but this is sort of some of the stuff, and this is really early research, but this is sort of some of the stuff that we were playing with while we were over there. and that's just an extension of that. So what is transformative technology? I just sort of wanted to show you a bit of the journey up until here. But fundamentally, we're a global ecosystem supporting entrepreneurs and innovators to build technologies focused around mental health, well-being, human performance, and human potential. So it's human-centered technology. I watched actually just last night the documentary on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's called The Social Dilemma. And it talks about how social media is really the part that it's playing to really, like, the algorithms, not just understand us with, you know, so much data being streamed, like being farmed from us from these algorithms, but then also manipulating us to serve ads and serve like a corporate business model, which is a advertising based business model. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend checking it out. It's The Social Dilemma. It's on Netflix. And so fundamentally, this is one of the reasons why, like, transformative technology, it's because we need to know ourselves better than these algorithms. Otherwise, we'll be fundamentally manipulated. And it seems like a little bit of a dark path, but it's happening. It's happening now. And there's a slow movement against this. And I don't want to go too far into that, but if you check out that documentary, you'll get a taste for what I'm talking about. And so fundamentally, with transformative technologies, it's creating technologies that works for us. Like, this technologies to a large extent are on this J curve, and so are the crisis that we face, but our humanity is on this linear curve. And so it's pointing the technology back down to us and having it serve us. And so we see it here, like across the well-being spectrum, like a technology should be elevating humanity and not enslaving it. And that's what we see happening with some of these large companies like Google and Facebook. And we hear sort of stuff around this, but the reality is it's happening, and it's real. And it's now that we with us, we know we have a choice to do something different. For me, this is why we've pivoted the space as supporting entrepreneurship in general to now a transformative technology hub, where we are supporting entrepreneurs and innovators that are building technologies that are supporting humanity to move across this spectrum. And we see it now. Like, the reality is we were already in a mental health crisis and a sleep crisis prior to COVID, and now it's just been it's accentuated. Got stuck on the word. But it's not just about being happy, right? It's not just about being okay. It's like, well, what is our what is our potential? What is humanity's potential? Like, who are we individually and who are we collectively? And fundamentally, what is our potential? How can technology serve that? How can it serve us to spiral up? And that's fundamentally what we're looking at here, because we look at this current schooling system and it's not preparing people for who we need to be in this world of hyper change, where, you know, you've got access to the world's information, your access to, like, a globe, like the whole of humanity really, through these social applications. But then also there's information being fired at us in that same capacity. It's like we haven't been prepared for this. And so it's like, how do we develop social and emotional skills to be able to cope with this? On route to being like, well, to waking up each day going, I know who I am, and this is how I get to express my potential. This is my life. I don't know if anyone else, has anyone else been like, does this resonate with anybody else? Does anybody else see the cliff that we're headed off with technology, and know that we need to actually make a change and start building technology for good, as opposed to just building technology randomly, but then also building technology that is doing more harm than good, which is what we're seeing. let me know. Like, yeah, for sure, Benny. It's it's real. Yeah, it's real. So where transformative technology sits, it's different than, yeah, absolutely, Jill. It is simply a tool, man. It's exactly, it's like all tools. It's like a social media, like it's a tool that can bring us together. Like it can reconnect people that have lost touch. We can find new friends. We can build relationships and find our tribe across the other side of the globe. But as an advertising tool, it can also be used to enslave us. A knife, like a knife can be used to make a beautiful lunch or dinner, but it can also be used to, really hurt someone. It's like, and that's where like transformative technologies as a movement, it's not just really about creating the technologies, it's using these technologies to help elevate the consciousness of humanity, to bring people out of suffering, so that the people that are pulling the levers, the people that are at the heads of these organizations are making the right decisions that's benefiting all. And if they're not, well, then they're being influenced by the like people that are awakening to do the right thing. Yeah, tech is not bad. I know we can walk away from tech and get over it, or one can bring on more tech and bring different insight. But to stay where many are isn't probably the best way. Yeah, I feel like we've got to evolve. Like everything's moving forward, and I think like tech, like Andrew said, tech's not the enemy. It's how we apply technology, and are we using technology to serve us? I'd be interested in how we can address society power imbalances. And that's a really good question. The disparity between the haves and the have-nots, that gap is getting bigger. Like how do we build technologies that can help solve that fundamental issue? And it may not even just be like the application of these technologies helps support people to move along that well-being spectrum so that they make better decisions. I'll talk about it more in upcoming slides, but for me, like this, like elevating consciousness is like the big domino. If we take care of that, then ideally people will be better, in a better resolve to make the right decisions. And a lot of the other challenges will take care of themselves because people will do what's right for all. And so we see like transformative technology, and like we see governments, sorry, and traditional techs, they sit on these bottom two rungs of Maslow's hierarchy of needs: safety and security, psychological needs. Whereas transformative technology are more focused on the love and belonging, the self-esteem, the self-actualization. It's fundamentally what we crave in an evolving world where we do see the quality of living moving up across nations. And despite what people say, if you look back, the quality of living is increasing, but our humanness is not, our humanity is not. It's like we're stuck when we're not addressing these top four layers of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And that's where transformative technology comes in. And what we're encouraging is like entrepreneurs and innovators, instead of just creating another application for food delivery or whatever it might be, let's create something that really matters. And the thing is, looking at growth markets, this is a real like red hot opportunity. It's such a growing market because, like I said, there was a crisis in mental health and well-being prior to COVID, and now we see it even more so. And so, like from an entrepreneurial point of view, to start thinking around how you can play in this space, it makes sense. It makes good sense. So that's part of what we want to encourage is smart minds to actually build something that matters. And essentially it's like technology across all these areas, applying like sensor tech, wearables, data tech. And this list isn't exhaustive. It's like a starting point. It's taking existing technologies and applying them. So neurotech, EEG, fMRI, neurostim tech, transcranial brain stimulation was one of the examples I showed before. So was the V-Light, their STIM devices, biofeedback tech, it's biotech. There's a great movie on, I'll put these into an email, a follow-up email that I send out to everyone, because these are really great movies to watch, but it's Human Nature. is really cool as well. It's got some really great examples of biotech that have emerged recently: biostim, perception tech, sleep tech, healthy spaces tech. Like, it's like, how do we create environments that support us to evolve? Like, we had one of our meetups just recently. We have a meetup, which I'll come to as we go through into this presentation, is one of the guys is working on this tech that as you walk into the room, it senses your key biometrics, and it can adjust the room to suit elevating your mood. So our environments are really, really important as well. And how does technology play a role in supporting us to regulate our states, to fundamentally be okay? App tech, obviously, and then robotics and care bots. There's a whole range of different ways that we can think about applying technology. And these are just some of the ways. So any entrepreneurs that are watching this is sort of like, if you've got any domain expertise in any of these areas, we want to encourage you to think about how you might be applying these technologies. And then, like, different ways that you can apply them is to assess, to get data, to assess, and then, amplify. Like a STEM device would amplify, enhance, and connect. But there's different ways that we can apply these technologies, and think about applying these technologies. And I'll talk about towards the end of the presentation of how we're using them to assess what we're doing, like using the tech to create data, and with that data, it creates awareness. But that could also lead to additional overwhelm. More data doesn't necessarily mean a positive result. It's like, how do we effectively interpret that data and then create appropriate interventions to help us to move forward effectively? And these are a whole range of different types of commercially available technologies. Now, some of them are from Australia, and some of these guys are from Transformative Technologies in Australasia that we're supporting. And I'll go into a couple of these as we go in, but Focus Band's one example of an Australian-based one. Compago, Focus Band's a neurofeedback device. It helps to basically show you what's happening in your brain. So if there's a certain intervention, say, like people say, you got to breathe, or you should meditate, or do yoga, whatever it is, you can actually measure objectively if it's positively impacting on you. Compago is an application for aged care facilities where it's overcoming the challenge of social isolation in the elderly. Behavioral change, Positive Prime is one of my favorite. It's a behavioral modification tool. Well, we've got Kim on a number of times to do presentations, so if anyone's interested in that, I can link to Positive Prime. But you can sort of see there's a whole range of emerging technologies in this space that are human-centered, which is I find to be really exciting. And why tech? Like, I used to think that tech was like doing more harm than good. And it's like Andrew said, like, tech can be used in a negative way. It's like anything can be applied negatively, but it can also be used for good. And in this instance, like, tech has the opportunity, if it's coming from the right space, it's scalable, which makes it accessible and affordable to people. So it's like, how do we apply technologies to these problems that humanity is facing, so that we can fundamentally evolve into the highest versions of ourselves that we can be, individually and collectively? Because at the moment we're headed off a cliff. And so, like I mentioned, like, for me, like, Transformative Technologies' collective vision is to help elevate the consciousness of 1 billion people by 2030 through every transformative technology device and service. And for me, like, I've always, like, when I started the space, I wanted to help consciousness to evolve. So when I heard that vision, I'm like, hell yeah, I want to be involved in this. And so and that's what got me really involved, and now pivoted the space from supporting entrepreneurship in general to now supporting transformative technologies entrepreneurs and innovators exclusively, but then also educating around how we can apply these. And so I think this is the big domino. You know, if we can help elevate the consciousness of humanity, well, then we will essentially start moving in the right direction. A lot of the other crises that we'll face will take care of themselves, like overconsumption, like striving to fill that hole within ourselves with stuff, and just how the separation that's caused from, you know, from race and from nations, and it's like this social and emotional and financial, the crises that are happening at the moment, environmental. You know, if we have that greater sense of connection, knowing who we are, that we are okay, I feel like a lot of these other crises will be more equipped to solve them. It's like Einstein says, whether he actually did say it or not, I think maybe it'd been misattributed to him, but we can't solve the problems of today with the same level of thinking that created them. So what we're talking about here is this is how we actually elevate our consciousness, by moving people across this well-being spectrum. Yeah, Benny, tech is a vice. It's like any others. It's an addiction. And when you've got like companies that are actually understand this, and they're creating these technologies to purposely make them addictive, that's where it gets really dark. And that's what they talk about in that movie, The Social Dilemma. So what part are we playing, like, in doing this? So like I mentioned, Transformative Technology is about supporting entrepreneurs and innovators. So it's part of a global ecosystem. And this is really powerful for any entrepreneurs on the call or listening to this that are interested in building a technology, because we can support you through a global ecosystem. And I'm going to explain what that looks like in a little bit more detail. But key aspects of building out an ecosystem is obviously the founders, the inventors, the startups, the entrepreneurs and innovators. And then there's corporates have got a role to play in terms of, there's a whole number of different ways: early adoption, sponsorship, buying a lot of the startups, community obviously is a big one, educational institutions, universities, research institutions, media, helping to communicate the message. And then just running events and programs is really important, and that's what's happening so throughout the transformative technology ecosystem globally and locally here within Australia as well. And so it is about, so part of the work that we've been doing is building these relationships both within Australia but then globally. And so here we see, like I mentioned, we relaunched the space in Cairns. It's a transformative technology hub now, and we've got a team there: Shatara, David, and Christine, and myself. And then within Queensland, within this snapshot of the people here in Queensland, these are the key drivers for Transformative Technology Australasia. We started as Queensland, and you'll see there was a chapter given to us in Queensland, and we've taken that, and now we've started FNQ, and we've started Australasia, sorry, and Queensland was the base for that. And now we're supporting the chapter open in Melbourne as well, and we want to open one in Sydney, New Zealand, and over into Asia as well. And then support each other to then connect into the global ecosystem. And within the global ecosystem, when we got involved initially, that was 2018. They run a conference since I think 2015, and in 2018 they had 750 people attend, and delegates that are interested in this space. And they ran their first academy, which is a free 1 month long academy supporting entrepreneurs and innovators. And there's mentor hours, there's investor hours, there's connecting with other people within the community, so people around the world that are building this sort of tech. There's domain experts, mentors, really, really powerful. Some people on the call participated in that, and I was a mentor for it as well. And we helped from Australia's point of view, Australasia's point of view, to make entrepreneurs and innovators aware that it was something that they were offering. Part of that was helping them to map the global ecosystem to see who's who out there that are doing cool things in this space. And then 2019, that grew. I went to the conference in 2019. It was freaking awesome on the ground over there in Palo Alto. I actually had some low-level anxiety the first day because I just wanted to be everywhere. There was an exhibition hall where there was people demonstrating all these different types of tech. There was amazing main stage speakers. And then there was another room where they had fire, like 10-minute presentations back to back. It was so awesome. And then obviously the normal networking, I just wanted to be everywhere. And then the next day I just realized, you know what, it was a 2-day conference. I just had to I missed so much, but what I saw was amazing. So you can only do what you can do. Needed like about 20 of me, and that still wouldn't have been enough. But you can sort of see like how this is growing as a movement, and it's growing in line with a need within the global community as well. We've got more across the globe as well, our crisis that humanity is facing. And so we're currently working on another, what they call TRANSTECH 200 as well, which is a market map to see like how much the ecosystem's grown and see who are the big players in this space. You know, like Calm, you know, I'm a meditation practitioner. I've meditated for 20 years. I was teaching meditation 10 years ago. And back then people's eyes would either roll back in their head or glaze over when you would talk about meditation in a business setting. But now you look at companies like Calm and Headspace, they have $1 billion valuation and they're growing. And it's like, I think pain's a beautiful motivator. You know, when people are in pain, you know, we look for a solution, and meditation is absolutely, it's like a magic bullet. It fixes so many different things. But that's a conversation for another day. You can see like in 2018, there was no chapters, but then in 2019, they asked people from within the community put their hand up to host a chapter. And that's what I did. And Queensland was one of 14 that were awarded to become chapters. And so that started the journey. And then since then, Christine Doan, who's on the call, hey Christine, and Nathan Nugent, Cara Burns, Ruben, these are all been key drivers that have come in and really support. And so like collectively, when we look at the chapter now, you know, we've got 6 amazing drivers that are pushing this agenda within Australia. And we've got an awesome team there in Cairns who contribute to it as well. And there's an opportunity for anyone on the call to get involved in this as well. Like more hands make light work. We've got a strategic plan that we want to release relatively soon. But now from those 14, there's like 27 chapters and 12 salons. And from an entrepreneur's point of view, from anybody watching this, like that's an incredible network. So I could pick up the phone or, so to speak, email or connect you to someone in London that heads up the London chapter and say, hey, Zenek's got this really cool tech that he's built, does this. Can he have a speaking spot within one of your meetups coming up so that he can present it to your audience? Or is there anyone that you can connect him to over in London that can get him distribution into X, Y, or Z? You know, we've got that sort of reach, you know, like this as a, you know, that's part of the work to be done. Like as an entrepreneur, particularly in a regional area, it's like, well, you can feel quite isolated, but what we've got is like an international runway into investment as well. There's a whole range of investors that are specifically moving in this direction. And I seen a quote the other day, I can't remember exactly who it was from, but they were saying like, if you haven't got one well-being or mental health tech in your portfolio, well, then you're really shortchanging your portfolio. And this is as an investment firm. And so this is a whole host of just the chapters that are around the world. And you can see some of the big names. Los Angeles, exciting news with LA, you know, so we have a meetup every Thursday. It's not every Thursday, last Thursday of every month. And so there's one next week. I'll talk more about that soon. But the one in October, we're actually doing a co-event with Los Angeles. So we're going to get 3 Australasian founders to a 5-minute pitch. And they're going to get 3 LA founders a 5-minute pitch. We're going to have judges, some investors from around the world. And hopefully Nicole Bradford, I've got to hit her up, one of the founders of TRANSTECH, and a few other high-level people. And so we ideally want to name a champion, LA, Australia, who's the TRANSTECH champion. So that's something to keep an eye out for. That's our October meetup, last Thursday of the month. It'd be about 7 a.m. to fit in with LA time. That should be awesome. But you can see like New York, Berlin, like these are big name cities that we can connect you into these communities, which is pretty amazing. Not to mention like the global like stakeholders that sit over this. So, and then there's a community as well. There's a community that anyone can join. It's $120 US a year, and there's like hundreds and hundreds of entrepreneurs and innovators, people that are in this space. And there's different learning opportunities, different experts, heaps of different events that are relevant to this. It's a value for money. I'll send through a link with information on this so that you can check it out. I think there's a few people on the call that are members to it. It's worth dropping in on. Anyone here on the call that is a member for that? Excuse me. No, but it really should get into it. Yeah, I'll send you the link. And so another way so that's one way to be involved, you know, like there's a few different ways that you can be involved, you know, like as an entrepreneur and innovator, you know, thinking about, or someone with domain expertise, thinking about how you can solve a problem relevant to this, relevant to transformative technology. There's the membership. And then, like I mentioned, the last Thursday of each month, the times vary, but we've got one coming up this coming Thursday next week. So there's a live stream option, so it's always Zoomed. So that's a great option for anybody to jump in on. Then there's going to be a physical meetup in Cairns, a physical meetup on the Gold Coast, and then Melbourne. Obviously, it's restrictions down there, but Brad always flies the flag from Melbourne. It's a chapter we're starting, so we like to acknowledge it as a physical location. So when it does open up, we can start building a community down there. We're looking for key people in Sydney as well that are interested to open a Sydney chapter, and we can support chapters to open. Anybody got any questions on that? So that was, you know, like the part that we're playing and how you can be involved, or what transformative technology is. Does anybody have any burning questions or any comments that they'd like to put forward? Nope. Cool. So just going to move my chats around. So how we're applying these technologies and how you can get started. Like, I know, are there opportunities for people who are doing different industries, e.g. beauty care? Well, fundamentally, like there's a few things that really qualify you as a transformative technology device. So it's got to be covering off, you know, one of those areas like mental health, well-being, human performance or human potential, and applying technology to that. So looking at beauty care, if it was something that was relevant to like well-being, and you can link it back to well-being, then for sure, as long as it was technology enabled. But if it's just like beauty, and there's no link to the well-being of the person beyond a superficial surface level, well then it probably wouldn't. Sales consultants who pivot from skin cream to TT. Yeah, so it'd be like, well, how is that skin cream relevant to like the different verticals for transformative tech? And how is it applying tech? Does that answer your questions, any kind of? No. What was I'm not sure I'm understanding it. Yeah, essential oils, there's not really, I guess technology by definition means it needs to be able to plug it in or run on batteries. So that's kind of how we draw the line on that. If you were like creating a platform that, like there's ways of workarounds that enabled people to access essential oils, maybe, that's a maybe. But essential oils, it's definitely well-being, but it's not a technology. We tend to focus just on technology. Oh, sorry, gotcha, Zenny. So what about bringing people who are doing skincare but are interested and might want to bring TT stuff. Yeah, great, perfect. Yeah, that's absolutely it. Like that's the thing, is like transformative technology is fundamentally industry facing, so we're supporting the entrepreneurs and innovators, but part of supporting those entrepreneurs and innovators is helping helping everyday people to access and understand how to apply these technologies. So bringing people with a general interest into transformative technologies across different industries, and then showing them how they can apply technologies to serve their clients is absolutely what we want. Yeah, cool. Thanks, man. Sorry, thanks for persisting. I got it there. Yeah. It doesn't mean to say like I don't think essential oils are freaking awesome. I do. But within our mandate, we tend to focus more on tech, Karen. So then this is just some examples of like how we're applying it. Just a heads up. So getting started with biohacking and consciousness hacking, doing a webinar next Thursday, this same time. So if anybody's interested, I'll include the link in the follow-up. Essentially, it's about this. It's about how we apply some of these technologies to address some of those early stage challenges that people are having with stress, anxiety, overwhelm, lack of focus, poor sleep, just unable to effectively regulate our emotions, lack of productivity. These are things that we can start addressing. And with I'm Connected is a company that I'm spearheading, and we're in our early stages, but I'd love anyone here to be involved in the early stages of applying these technologies. And it is, like I mentioned, yeah, like a lot of the work to be done right now is like addressing these mental health and emotional well-being opportunities. But then from there, it's like applying these same technologies. We can apply similar technologies to help move people along, because it's about what you measure, you can optimize. And so optimizing, so we're constantly optimizing and testing. Like the data creates awareness, and with that awareness we can, sometimes with expert interpretation, go, all right, well, these are effective steps that we need to take to get to the next level, and then the next level, and the next level, and the next level, optimizing our performance. And part of it is just creating good, positive habits and moving away from negative habits. Like Benny mentioned before, is like the technology as a vice. It can be a vice. And, if we have this addiction to our phone where our emotions are being smashed around each day, and our cognition and our attention, because of our addiction to our phone, well then, and also knowing that the people that are creating these technologies are building them with that in mind, with that purpose of making these addictive. And so it's like, how do we use these technologies to move beyond that? And so, like, this is part of what we're doing with I Am Connected, and this is how we're applying. We're focusing on a couple of key technologies. Sleep tracker. Like, what we're seeing is like there's a bigger pandemic happening on the planet at the moment than COVID, and that's sleep. Like, people aren't sleeping well. So it's like, how do we? And sleep is so important. Despite what we hear in this entrepreneurial space, the rise and grind and push, that's actually breaking and hurting people, and it's impairing our ability to be able to function and perform day in, day out. So what we're doing is using sleep technology like this Oura Ring as an example to measure our sleep objectively, and from there take that data and then create effective strategies, interventions to help optimize our sleep so that we're getting the rest and recovery that we need. And that's at a base level. From there, it's like moving into not just optimization, but understanding what else that's possible in dreams. I was on it. I'm going to do a call, an interview with one of the guys from Oura Ring in the coming weeks. He's been passionate about lucid dreaming and how we can apply technology to lucid dreaming. So it's being conscious in our dreams and using that to explore. And that may seem like a little bit of woo-woo, but what we're seeing is how technology can not just validate that, but amplify that. And that's really exciting because at the moment, most people, and I say most people, but a lot of people, they're asleep and then they're in this waking state of doing. And that's how we exist. But what we're seeing now with these emerging technologies and also an emerging consciousness is that there's so much more to living than just being awake and then having that sleep as dead time. It's like, how do we explore who we are and what our potential is while we're asleep? From our waking state, how do we regulate our waking state so we're no longer just stuck in this state of overwhelm, stress, anxiety? How do we learn? And this is where meditation becomes a really powerful tool to regulate our state through the different brainwave states. And something I'll go in more detail at the webinar next week, how we use our brainwaves, how we use different techniques to regulate our brainwave states. And in these different brainwave states, we have different experiences. So it's learning how to regulate that, because insight, well-being, creativity, a sense of okayness, it happens at a different brainwave state than a busy awake state that we can get stuck in. So here we're using technology, like I suggested here, move out of stress, memory consolidation, effective rest and recovery, to optimize these fundamentals so that we can be healthy and we can be okay. So we create awareness, and with that awareness, use that awareness to create effective habits and undo negative habits, and then provide some level of training and support. Like, as part of this, what we're doing is like a community. We're creating a community in a co-opetition environment. So it's about creating the habit of meditating every day. Like, one of my goals is to have 1 million people meditating every day. Meditation's been so profound in my world. It's changed literally who I am as a person. You may have heard, what's his name? Joe Dispenza. He talks about your personality determines your personal reality. Something similar to like that as well. So your personality doesn't determine your personal reality. I think I mixed that up, but essentially what it is you can change who you are. And meditation is such a fundamental, powerful tool to enable that. And so here, this is just a support structure, accountability structure to be able to, are you doing your practice? How can we support you to be doing your practice every day? And this is on the front end. We're actually building out an application on the back end as well, where you can log in, you can see your sleep, you can see your meditation, you can see how you're performing relative to your peers. You can get connected to training and support on key fundamentals. What we're seeing though is like, once we're optimizing sleep or working towards fundamentally optimizing sleep and training meditation, is there's been some level of dysfunction in our bodies from lifestyle factors or from pushing too hard. So then that's where we move more into the bio-testing, biohacking. For me, I'm more of a conscious status hacker than a biohacker first and foremost, but because for me, it's about exploring who I am and what else is possible. I consider myself an explorer, but then to do that, we need this beautiful avatar, these avatars to be optimized and doing well. So it's part of what we're doing as well. And so building a growing team of experts to help with that optimization process, understanding that data. And then with that data, it's how do we create effective interventions for you? Because what it does is it provides you personalized data. So like I mentioned, we're using Oura, but we're also using neurofeedback devices, such as Muse, such as Focus Band. These are easy ways to get started, is to be tracking your neurofeedback through meditation or key activities, and tracking sleep. And from there, that provides us a whole lot of really beautiful data individually that we can then help to optimize what's going on for you. So if you're someone out there that's struggling with sleep, is struggling with your emotions, is struggling with stress, overwhelm, anxiety, being kept up at night, any of these things, this is a fundamental process that we can put in place that may then require us to look at some level of biotesting, because it could be that your thyroid's not right, or your hormone levels are all mixed up, melatonin's out, serotonin's out, and that can happen from lifestyle factors. But it's once with that awareness that we can then work towards changing it. And like I've been talking about, part of the key thing that we're doing here, what we're working towards, is elevating consciousness. Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate you tuning in, mate. And that's what we're working towards, is elevating consciousness, helping us to not just be okay, but to what else is possible, not just be happy. Like, how happy can we be? Yeah. Which brings me to the fourth thing. Any questions on that before I move on to the fourth thing, before I show the fourth thing? Nope. All right. So the fourth thing is what we're doing is, my time, like I shared at the beginning, at in San Francisco at the Transformative Technologies lab. That was 4 weeks in that house. It's a beautiful big mansion. We're setting up something similar on the Gold Coast, calling it the Transformansion, where it's a co-living environment, where we're looking at the moment. I'm in the process of bringing this together. So now, if you're watching this, is an ideal time, if this resonates with you. If you're interested in this sort of stuff and going deep in this stuff of personal development, the quantifiable self, consciousness, exploring you and your potential, well, then we're looking for tenants. We're looking probably to get a 5 or 6 bedroom mansion, so it'll be relatively cost effective. We're looking probably at around $300 a week each, which is not ridiculous. But then we get to live in this beautiful big house, and then there's a whole mandate that we've created around this. So if this is of interest to you, or anybody that would be interested in this, again, I'll include the link in the chat, not in the chat, in the follow-up email that I send to you. And with, like I mentioned, again, I keep coming back to this because it's not just about being. First step is just to be okay, mental health, well-being. But it's about taking things to the next level. It's like, how do we continue to level ourselves up? And that's what we're looking to do at the house. That's what we're looking to do with I'm Connected. That's what we're looking to do with Transformative Technologies. And then doing that globally. How do we be that influence globally? And it starts with ourselves, right? Like, to be that ourselves, and then from there, do the work that we need to help humanity to evolve. Yeah, it's on the Gold Coast, Zenny, in the Gold Coast region. We're in the process of recruiting key people. We've got a few at the moment. We're looking for a couple more. Be an application process. But yeah, Christine, it's a consciousness house. For me, it's like, I see a lot, and I read a book called Lost Connections, and he talks a lot about it there. Is like a lot of like it's a book really talks a lot about antidepressants and how they're misused and how they don't work. Most people on antidepressants are still depressed, and that's not absolute. There's definitely certain cases where they work amazingly, but for the most part, they're overused and abused. And it's not that we have these imbalances in ours, but we've created a depressed society, and we evolved in tribes and community, but now we drive our cars into our individual garages, and we go into our dwellings, and we're isolated, and there's no, the mechanisms for us to really connect and share with each other aren't as profound. And so what key part of what we're doing in this so we've got a co-working space in Cairns. This is a co-living environment. And what we're working towards here with I'm Connected and Transformative Technology in the space is creating a community. And the co-living is just like to be surrounded by people that get who you are and want to support you. And we're on the same wavelength, and it's like an intentional co-living environment, intentional community. And I know Alison, who may watch this in the recording, who was going to be here, they've set up one of those in Cairns. There's one set up on the Northern Rivers side of northern New South Wales, and we're looking to set up an intentional co-living environment here on the Gold Coast. That's getting you up to speed with transformative technologies, what is transformative technologies, the part that we're playing in terms of building out a support structure. Why? Because, like we're here on the planet, we want to might as well do some good work. And I see that elevating consciousness is like a big domino. If we can do that through all the transformative technologies, services and devices, then it gives us collectively the best chance to survive. And I'm Connected is a way that we're applying these technologies individually. And then, like I mentioned, co-living. The transformation, the beauty of mansion is kind of a bit of a, I guess it's a bit of a dick term, but it might as well live somewhere nice. And the value of having an intentional community is that you share the costs, and it's not that expensive. You can actually live. I went and checked one out the other day. It was $1.7 million house, and it was $1,200 a week, 5-bedroom. It's reasonable. Very reasonable. And then not only that, then you're surrounded, you're living and supporting each other to be accountable, to be the best version of ourselves. That's it. I have all for today. I'll do a deep dive into some of these concepts in subsequent webinars. So please do keep tuned. I'll send a follow-up email out if anyone's interested in any of this stuff. Also, anyone's interested in being involved in I Am Connected, the work that we're doing there, and tracking sleep and tracking meditation, and then using that data to optimize ourselves. But then I'm also looking at different bio tests. I recently did my gut permeability and gut microbiome. It's a lot of emerging science is suggesting that poor gut health is linked to early stages of Alzheimer's and dementia. It can cause brain fog, and as someone that wants to really just be on as much as possible, this is a handbrake that I don't know if I've got, but potentially I can help alleviate and get more out of this biological system. So looking at bio tests like that as well. So if anyone's interested in I Am Connected stuff, I'll include a link where you can book in a 30-minute chat with me, and we can talk more about that as well, how to apply these technologies. And not just those, but a whole range of different ones. Any questions? Any comments? We've got 2 minutes, but I'm happy to hang back. Thanks, Zenik. Hey, Christine, did you want me to bring you off mute? Let me see if I can bring you in here. If anyone has to go, I appreciate that, but I'm just going to see if I can. All right, Christine, you can unmute now. And you can ask your question.
Yeah, there we go.
Hey, how are you?
I only see the two of us. Has everybody else left?
No. There's
Nope.
there's still
there's still people. So in general, my question is, because some of these more complicated technologies that are app driven require quite a bit of sort of instruction to be able to get them set up and running. Are you going to be planning to do some kind of group where people can help each other solve their technology problems? Because it seems to me that this is going to be a big part of making transformative technologies work for a lot of people. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, actually. It's something, obviously starting groups is something that we're keen on doing, but applying groups to that situation for sure makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just playing with a couple of different transformative technologies right now, and boy, I have to get somebody to help me with them. So, it's really clear that not everyone is going to be able to easily master just getting through the technology. So or fixing, troubleshooting. So it just seems to me that some kind of membership subscription or something group, but how to keep that restricted to certain technologies. I think there are a lot of tricks to it, and a lot of difficulties, but some angle like that, I think, has to happen. Is this something you're seeing? Is that people have a need for this?
I think there's definitely a learning. It's like anything when you first get it. There's a learning curve to it,
Yeah,
and some are more intuitive than others.
yeah,
And it depends on like how foreign the tech is and how tech savvy the person is. But
yeah,
some people are more able to grasp it than others. But I think yeah, it's kind of like part of the mandate is to use technology to make it accessible for people. So I think it's a great idea.
yeah. Well, certainly my experience has been that buying an Aura ring allowed me to just slip it on my finger and everything worked. Like nothing, didn't have to do anything. But everything else that I've fiddled with or played with has required some degree of technical mastery and or later troubleshooting. And that, I just think that's a part of being able to service the whole community that's looking into transformative technologies, that is going to have to be provided in some way, shape, or form. You'd hate to have people just giving up on them because they couldn't get any help.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that's my thoughts about it. Anyway, thanks for that, for letting me express that.
Yeah.
See ya.
No problem.
Yeah.
Thanks, Christine. Does anybody else have anything they want to contribute? Comments, questions? Otherwise, I'll be sending you lots of love, and I'll get an email out to you all probably within the next hour with some of the links that I've mentioned. Yeah, until then, thanks for tuning in. Just a quick heads up, there's a Transformative Technology meetup next Thursday night. There's the Getting Started with Biohacking and Consciousness Hacking webinar next Thursday day. So they're two things to keep an eye out for, but I'll send those through on email as well. But thanks, guys. Appreciate you all. Thanks, Jill. Yeah, I'm keen to keep in touch with you as well and get more involved in the work that you're doing. All right. Until then, I will say goodbye.